Hi there, my name is Tom Paul. I'm a 3D artist, gameplay programmer, designer, and tech artist in Mimic Panic. I was also in charge of setting up the production Scrum workflow. Mimic was an excellent opportunity to test our skills and company structure. Developed from one of our free Game Jam projects, Mimic was chosen for our offline voting polls. We made sure you had a say on what Ducktalk was making, and we delivered. The overall project organization was quite simple, but proved challenging to come up with. Since this was an indie project, we couldn't set systems up allowing features that were too ambitious. Striking the right balance between good code and project management hindsight and complex workflow improvements was crucial to delivering this project on time and to the standard we were all hoping for. So we knew from the get-go our project was going to happen in one level. So level streaming was not going to be a feature we would have to look into. We did, however, set individual levels for lighting, set dressing, mechanics, and environment. Dividing the main level into these subcategories allowed us to work collaboratively from home without treading on each other's toes. FYI, we used Perforce as our version controlling software. The biggest challenge during the project was by far the possession system, which would spawn and despawn pawn blueprints via the player controller. Pawn blueprints are actors within the level that can be possessed by the player, meaning the player can control it, i.e. characters, vehicles, mimic chests, barrels. Here, due to the character being able to change between a static object and a movable, rigged, animated object, we had to set up a hierarchy. The main father of this hierarchy was going to be a pawn blueprint, which would then branch out into a character and object blueprint. This allowed both the children to be possessed while making them unique to the functionality of the actor. Ducktalk Games are incredibly proud to present Mimic Panic to the world. I hope you all enjoy playing the game as much as we did developing it.
Hi, I'm George Dyson, I'm the producer, and it's my role to manage the development of the game by scheduling the necessary tasks and ensuring that they are completed on time. Each morning, to assign these tasks, I would ask the team individually to say what they plan to be working on during the day, and also to summarise their progress again in the evening, which we called dailies and nightlies. The best thing I found about this approach is that by saying it out loud, it helps you understand what you need to focus on, and also gives everyone a target to achieve by the end of the day. It also helps me manage my time to ensure that two people are not working on the same task. To manage the project, we used Choir, which is an online whiteboard that you can fill with virtual sticky notes and add tasks to them and assign them to different people. It worked well for us as a to-do list, displaying all of our past, present and future tasks neatly in different layouts, but we mainly used the Gantt chart to track our progress. I would highly recommend using the software for organising large-scale projects, and if you're interested in finding out more, please do check out our next project coming up this summer.
Hello, my name is Maxim Izakov, and I was the environment and lighting artist for Mimic Panic. The first stage was to create an accurate blockout of the level. This was made using our very own art bible filled with concepts and diagrams based on your input. The blockout stage didn't take too long, though we did face several complications. For example, the blockout being too big. This was later redone. The next stage was to construct the level and populate it with assets. This is when the level really started to come together and we could start playtesting it. The set dressing had to take into account the camera position. This meant that some areas had to be more populated than others. Finally, we move on to the lighting. This was a long, iterative process. One of the challenges we faced was bleeding shadows in the brewery. After weeks of trying to resolve the issue, we ended up fixing it by placing a cube over the room. Overall, the environment really started to come to life when primary colored lights were added, as well as fog and blue background light, really adding to the atmosphere of the game. I hope you found this insightful. Thank you for listening.
Hi, I'm Christopher Elliott, the 3D prop artist and 2D graphic artist for Ducktalk Games. Despite working on Mimic Panic during the Game Jam, I didn't officially join Ducktalk until a few months later, becoming the last person to join the team. My main role as a graphic artist for Ducktalk Games was to help solidify the company's image, and to ensure that our art style was consistent across our platforms. This was made by creating a document that outlined how our company should present itself. I also finalised the company logo, designed Dev, the Ducktalk mascot, and produced the visuals for our Pechakucha presentation. When developing the image of our company, we settled on a simplistic art style with a colour palette of yellow, orange, and light blue. We felt this best embodies a company that can appeal to our target audience of young adults, whilst also appearing professional to potential investors. It took us a while to settle on this, and we went through many iterations, and it was only after the creation of Sam, a character created for the Pechakucha, that we were able to finalise the art direction of our brand. Once that was done, I set about creating the promotional poster for Mimic Panic, which was used to generate hype in the build-up to the game's release. Just like all my graphic work, this poster was created in Photoshop in my adapted workflow. I kept each element of the poster, such as borders, background, and the Mimic in separate layers and organised folders, so that they could be easily edited at a later date. It was immensely helpful, as we were very fortunate to receive feedback from a professional graphic artist towards the end of the project when the poster was finished. The workflow allowed me to implement changes and push the poster to its best form with the professional guidance. As for my graphic input into the game, I designed and created icons for the controls using the How to Play tab in the game's menu, and the item possession icons in the game's user interface. Since I am also a 3D prop artist, I used Blender to model and texture a few assets for the game, including the standing flags in front of the brewery and the flower beds in the courtyard. I've really enjoyed working with Ducktalk Games, and I hope the fun we had creating this game shows in the final product.
Hi, I'm Zakil, a 3D journalist / prop artist for Mimic Panic. In this overview, I'll be going over what I've done for the game and mostly explaining the modeling processes of the dragon statue and how I overcame certain challenges along the way. I was chosen to model the statue, although we did not know which type of statue we would put in the scene. I gathered a myriad of different references with different statues so the team and I could decide on which one we would go with. With the decision, we had the help of our Twitch streamers voting on which statue to go with. The team discussed what would go well within the scene, a human or a dragon statue. There was already an armor stand in the game, so we wanted to break up the scene with something new to look at, so we went with the dragon. This was my first time modeling something that was organic, as opposed to hard surface, which is the type of modeling style I'm most familiar with. Referencing is an important must when it came to modeling a character, which I considered the dragon one. Shape and form is so important when it came to this. The dragon that I was modeling, called Shimaski, from the Dragon Bridge in Slovenia, I placed all the references inside Blender and started blocking out the shape. At some point, I needed more reference. Luckily enough, I found a 3D scan of the dragon on Sketchfab, so I could take close-up looks, screenshots from the side and back. Once I got all the references I needed, I started blocking out the shape using metaballs inside Blender, and then started using standard box modeling, making sure to keep good edge flow, and I'm sure there's a number of tutorials out there teaching good edge flow. Once I had finished the dragon, it was on to making it look like it would fit with the style within Mimic Panic, that low poly aesthetic I made inside Blender using the Decimate modifier. However, there were a few issues when it came to using the Decimate modifier inside Blender. The wings were too thin and started clipping into itself, and to fix that, I just used a Displace modifier, so only to offset them slightly. When it came to texturing, I used the same method we've used throughout the entire scene, using one texture sample or color swatch to keep the consistency going. And that's all. That's all I have for the overview.
Hi, my name is Sean Croucher, and I was a 3D generalist, environment artist, programmer and tech artist for Mimic Panic. One of the most important parts I worked on was the modular pack that would be used to build the environment. This ended up being much larger than I anticipated, as I made multiple versions of both the walls, pillars and floors to avoid obvious tiling and repetition. This helped to keep the environment looking fresh and interesting. Once the blockout was done, I made a new level and using my modular pack started tracing over the blockout. This didn't take too long as everything snapped together really easily. The only part that did take a while was deciding how to arrange the floor pieces to create interesting patterns. I also worked on a low poly water shader used in the fountains and the river outside. I was very happy with the result and I think it worked really well with our art style. If I did the shader again, I would definitely like to add edge detection to create a clear shoreline. To make the scene feel more alive, I created a dust particle effect using 3 different dust alphas I made in Photoshop. I also made a low poly candle flame effect that I put in a blueprint that contained the candle holder, candles and my flame. This made it easy to place around the scene. To accompany this, I made a flickering light blueprint that could be easily adjusted and placed around the scene to give the lighting some motion. I had also worked on some of the sounds in the game. For example, I set up different footstep sounds for different materials, giving the Mimic that extra connection to the environment. The last thing I set up was the menu UI. This included a how to play screen, credits with a fast forward button and even a pause screen. This was the final piece of the puzzle and really helped to make the project feel completed. I really enjoyed working on this project and hope you have fun exploring the environment we created.